To make sausage rolls, I'm going to start off with a pack of 8 thick sausages. I'm going to remove the skins. They get a bit tough otherwise when you cook them. So I'm going to use a sharp knife. This is one method. And we're going to slit the skin. Another method would be to use a scissors and just cut underneath the skin all the way along the sausage. Once you've slit all of them or cut all of them, you can then put your knife or your scissors down and you then start to peel that skin off. If you wanted to at this stage, you could put them into a bowl and you could mix it up with some chutney, some chilli sauce, some grated cheese, garlic, spices, lots of different things that you could add if you wanted to flavour your sausages. You can also buy ready flavoured sausages and use those. Once you finish skinning the sausages, they are going to stay on the red board and go out of the way for the moment. Make sure your hands are clean at this point, ready for the pastry. Before I unroll the pastry, I'm going to crack and beat an egg ready. Put it in your hand, hit it with your blunt knife, crack it into a basin and use a fork to beat it. Want it nice and liquid with no chunks of white. Once the egg is beaten, you're going to need a pastry brush, so I'm going to put those together and just put them out of the way for the moment. Before you unroll your ready rolled pastry, you will need to keep it out of the fridge for about 20 to 30 minutes, otherwise it cracks because it's too cold. So you would then gently unroll it, leaving it on the paper for the moment. And just flatten it. You can work directly on the paper, or if you're going to tip it onto the table, you would sprinkle a little flour. I'm going to work on the paper as it's unrolled nice and neatly. I'm then going to cut it in half. You can use a knife or safer way and better for your table, just use a pizza wheel. So just split it in half down the middle. At this point then, you need your sausages close by, and we're just going to put them onto the pastry. If you've mixed them up with other flavours, you would need to reshape them so that they fit the same as the 4 sausages down the centre of the pastry. Notice I'm having to squeeze these up a little bit because the pastry is a bit shorter than the sausages, and that's fine. If you had a bit more pastry, you would just thin the sausages out and stretch them to fit. So the next thing I'm going to do is either using water or milk, or in this case egg, brush a line along the furthest side of the pastry away from you. If this is too wet, it's not going to glue the other pastry to it. You can see I've been quite generous with it, but then I'm wiping it back off. And what you would next do is to pick up the edge of the pastry, peel it off the paper if you need to, or you could even roll it up with the paper just to help you lift it, and tuck it tightly around the sausages. So it's quite sticky, so if I had floured it, it would be a little bit drier underneath, but it should handle fine. You can pick up the paper and roll, and you press it down so that the join where the two overlap closes up. So I'm now repeating this with the second one, and you literally roll it. I'm going to roll that off the paper to show the join. Just going to pinch along the join to make sure it's not going to come undone. And I'm rolling it back because we want that join underneath when they cook. I'm just sprinkling it with a little flour now, just to make it a little bit easier to handle, because it was quite sticky because it's quite warm in the room. So when you get to that stage, you're ready to start dividing them into your separate sausage rolls. Now I had 4 sausages, so I can feel where each one started, and I'm going to mark cuts there. Then I'm also going to cut halfway in between those. So half cutting through at the moment. The easiest thing to then do is to use a scissors and cut the rest of the way through. You can do it with a knife, but you would need to put it on a chopping board to do that. So once you finish cutting them, I'm going to glaze them. You do this on the paper, it doesn't matter if you're a little bit messy doing it, because any drips of egg will stay on the paper rather than going onto your tray. Don't have to do this, but it does give it a nice glossy shine to the finished pastry. And to finish them off just before they go on the tray, I'm just going to use again either a scissors or a knife just to snip into the top. Quite optional again, but I think it does look quite neat. So that's the scissors version. If you're using a knife, you'd use the tip of the knife and you just make a couple of little cuts. So they will act as a decoration and a bit of a vent to stop them bursting open. At this point, they now need to go onto the baking tray ready to cook. So the sausage rolls are glazed and cut into the right size. They're now on the baking paper just so that they don't stick, and they're ready to cook for 15 to 20 minutes. They go into the oven at 200 degrees. Obviously ovens do vary, so keep an eye on them. Get a cooling rack ready for when they come out, because you don't want to put a hot tray down onto your worktop. These have had 18 minutes. Just to make sure that they're fully cooked underneath, I'm going to turn them over and put them back in for a few minutes more. That gets them nice and crispy underneath and a much better quality on the pastry. So when they come out, they should be a nice light crisp golden pastry, and then you need to take them off, put them on your cooling rack and leave them for at least 10 minutes before you even think of trying one.